Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and ran into some technical difficulties yesterday. I was not able to get any videos done, and everything's back up and running today. Well, most of everything is back up and running, not everything. Today's going to have to be voiceovers only, but that's okay because we're going to have to extend Q&A day over to today instead of yesterday. So let's go ahead and knock this out with the first question. All right, here we go. Hey coach, had a minor lower back tweak about a year ago, deadlifting. It took a long time to rehab and get me to 95% pain and tightness free. My physical therapist said I should start light squatting and deadlifting again to get my core strength and my lower back healthy, but I completely avoid them because I'm scared I will get injured again, even though I know it will help me. Any tips to get back into it? Thanks in advance. All right, here's what I would say to something like that. Your physical therapist has told you to go back and start doing them. Now you're scared to do something that your physical therapist has ordered you to do. If that's the case, and we know squats and deadlifts, especially done light, starting back, are perfectly healthy, perfectly fine. You've been given a go by your physical therapist, and yet you're refusing to do what your physical therapist said. So I guess just stay injured then. That's my advice, man. Just go ahead and atrophy, lose all your muscle, all your strength in your entire lower 2/3 of your body, because you don't want to listen to your physical therapist and you don't want to listen to common sense. Just stay hurt and stay weak then. Those are your only two choices. You can either get up and start doing what you know that you're supposed to do, that you should be doing, which is easing back into squats and deadlifts, exactly like your physical therapist said, and so they've given you the go-ahead to do it. You can do that and you can start getting your gains back and rebuild your strength, or you can just go ahead and stay weak and injured for the rest of your life. All right, that's it. That's your only two options. So basically you're saying you are scared to be healthy and strong again. That's what you're afraid of. Then okay, then stay weak and injured. Shit or get off the pot, son. It's as simple as that. So if you're serious about recovery and rebuilding anything that you had, then get in the gym tonight. Get in the gym tonight. It's as simple as that, brother. All right, next question. How much can we trust studies into muscle gain? Most studies are done on novices, and anything works on novices. Even studies where they use experienced lifters, it's rare they're even intermediate lifters. Interesting point, and that's something that we do have to take under consideration and think about when looking at literature, because we cannot always extrapolate data on novices to intermediate and advanced lifters. So here's what I would say to a lot of that. There are a handful of studies done on more experienced lifters out there. They very rarely involve hypertrophy. They very rarely involve hypertrophy because as you get more advanced, there's almost no variation in hypertrophy and overall performance, right? And since most people are not trying to become advanced bodybuilders who train to a certain threshold, it would really be a waste of money. It would be a waste of grant money to even study maximum hypertrophy in drug-free people outside of the context of performance, because we know they're so correlated anyways that there's almost no need to really study that. And again, nobody who's seeking maximum size is going to stay completely natural. That's a very, very rare person. And that person is so rare that no one wants to waste grant money studying them. No one wants to waste grant money studying that less than 1% of the lifting population. All right. So you just have to take that into account. But what I would say is that, there are a lot of good studies on novices. And I would say beyond the novice phase, because of there being a little less useful scientific literature, that's where a bit of anecdote comes in, experience, coaches. The experience that others have had can start to become a lot more valuable in the absence of hard data. And that's what I would say about it. So you can't necessarily always trust all of those particular studies, but they can give you some interesting stuff to look at. And then you have to look at that in a context and compare it to what's out there in terms of anecdote. All right, next question. Hey coach, I am following Candito's 6-week program and I am finding the lower body days to be too low volume. I don't understand the purpose of reducing volume and increasing intensity because it doesn't seem to make me any stronger. I feel like I could perform week 4 and week 5 sets a day or 2 after other squat session. I feel like I can handle more volume at high intensity. Is this program not for me? If so, what would you recommend? Prior to starting this program, I was squatting 3 times a week, but my progress with linear progression was stalled. Stats are 160 kilogram squat, 210 kilogram deadlift. I weigh 75 kilograms, 5'10", pretty lean, and have been training a bit over a year. Thanks. Well, you don't understand with some of those where you're running through phases like that where the intensity goes up and the volume goes down. That is important for peaking your strength and developing strength that will carry back over to those other phases. And you're like, well, I don't think I'm getting significantly stronger. Well, what's your basis of that? Meaning, did you go up 1 kilo in strength? If you're no longer a novice lifter, you've been training over a year with a 160 kilogram squat and a 210 kilogram deadlift. Things are going to slow down from here. So your perception at this point of what is an acceptable strength gain is skewed. And you're no longer running linear style training, right? You're not running linear style training anymore. So you have to accept that oftentimes those higher intensity phases are there to train you to handle heavier weights than you are used to during the higher volume phases, so that you can also handle more workloads during those phases, and they feed into each other a bit back and forth. So you need to learn that fact and accept that fact, because you're used to, if you think you're going to get stronger from doing something for 2 weeks, right? Because you have been a novice very recently, your concept is that in 2 weeks you should be able to add 5 or 10 kilos to the bar, and that's a strength gain. All right, you're not a noob anymore. That doesn't happen. I want to rephrase that. I want to repeat that again. You are not a novice anymore. That stuff doesn't happen. You're hoping to gain 1 kilo, 2 kilos. That's what your goal is out of something like that at this point. And then you go back through a little more volume phases again. So you need the context to understand that, again, you're no longer a novice. It doesn't work that way. I don't think there's anything wrong with the program. Go ahead and run it and see what results you get after 12 weeks or so, right? 12 weeks at least. All right, next question. Hey, coach, my tiny wrists, less than 20 centimeters circumference, are becoming the weak link in my back squat. Just holding the bar in place puts so much stress on them, I'm not sure how much further they'll let me progress. Front squat is not an option for me either, as I've come to the conclusion that I'm not built for it. Really long forearms and strangle me on the bar with my wrist needing more than 90 degrees to even hold the bar on the front squat. Should I get wrist wraps for the back squat? Will they even help? I've never even heard wrist wraps and squats in the same sentence. Thanks, Jason. No, actually, a lot of people do wrist wraps and squats. All right, your small wrist shouldn't be a factor. The weight shouldn't really be on your wrist. And I can relate to you because I have long forearms. I have long forearms relative to other things in my body. And that extra inch or two of forearm really can make some things awkward on squatting. Sometimes it can make things awkward on front squats. I can still do front squats in spite of that. But the whole point there is learning how to get that bar rocked back and then set right there up on top of your collarbone and on your shoulders. That is a trick to that. And that takes some practice. Definitely takes some practice with that. But as far as your back squat goes, what you are going to need to do is adjust your elbow position, your grip width, all of these things until you can get the bar into a position to where it is resting up on your back without your wrist taking the weight. Without the wrist taking your weight. And that's something that people don't grasp, and that's one of the things you have to look at when you start talking about forward lean. And some people worry about the hip drive and a little bit of thoracic rounding and stuff. Well, the reality is stuff like that in many cases is what's going to keep that bar from pushing down onto your wrists and your forearms and your elbows and everything. But realistically speaking, the weight shouldn't be supported by your wrists. So here's the problem we're running into. If you are feeling pain in your wrists on the squats and that weight's crushing down on it, it is absolutely the way that you are gripping the bar in the context of where your position is on everything, right? It has to do with your elbow placement. You're going to have to learn to get your elbows down a little more. You're going to have to learn to get your scapula pulled back a little more. You're going to have to learn to find a grip width that puts less stress on them, right? And there's going to be mobility work you can do. Dead hangs from a chin-up bar, shoulder dislocates. You're going to need to do some mobility stuff probably. And I know I'm in the same boat. I have problems with shoulder mobility sometimes. I have long forearms. what you are describing is a problem for me also. So it's just about finding that sweet spot and learning to consistently find a way to position the elbows down a little more, keeping the scapula back, getting everything in the right spot. That's really all you can do. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.